Welcome back to the Kaspa Silver YouTube channel. So in today's video, I want to talk about Nano or Xno and compare the tech to Kaspa. So if you don't already know, taking a look at Nano, this has been something that's been around in the space since about 2017, and it had a huge parabolic pump, and I believe the high was actually around like $50, and ever since then it's just been a dump and has pretty much not done anything, has not been able to reclaim its all-time highs, and its current market cap is only at $89 million. So if you don't know, Nano is sometimes brought up to kind of fight against Kaspa because Nano has super fast confirmation times and it's practically feeless and all that kind of stuff. And I've actually bought Nano in the past, not really understanding the differences between Bitcoin and everything else and why proof of work is so important. But if we take a look at Nano, you could see here that it was billed as digital money for the modern world. Nano is a lightweight cryptocurrency that is designed to facilitate secure, practically instant payments without fees and address some of major limitations of both legacy financial infrastructure and many modern cryptocurrencies. So back in the day, it's a DAG. So a lot of people were, this was new technology during that time period with DAG technologies like IOTA and Nano and whatnot. And they were pretty significant during that time because their speeds, but a lot of people don't realize is that their speeds are only due to the fact that they are more centralized and they sacrifice scalability as well. We're going to go into Shai's discussions with other people who are talking about Nano and why they're saying that it's better than Kaspa, and Shai debunks them in these conversations. Also, just to point out, Nano is not a proof of stake. It's called something known as Open Representative Voting, ORV. And from my research, no matter what, any project that has some kind of voting system that's based on the amount of coins you hold or anything like that, when it's just based on the amount of coins, it always means that it's probably going to be more centralized. And in this case, Nano is more centralized. Not only that, Nano does have a foundation, just like an Ethereum foundation. So that's another red flag for me when it comes to choosing a cryptocurrency that's fully decentralized. You can also see this paragraph down here. It says, in November 2021, aiming to bring Nano to the real world and to comply with the globally recognized standards of the International Organization for Standardization, ISO, requirements, Nano adopted a new ticker and standard symbol XNO and X. And if you look at who made this change, it was literally the founder and the board of directors that's part of the foundation, which is like 3 or 4 people. And they just made the change to completely rebrand it so that it can comply more with ISO requirements, which leads to CBDCs and all that kind of stuff, which again, to me, that's a red flag that this is clearly a lot more centralized than Kaspa, because with Kaspa, there is no foundation and there is no board of directors or anything like that. It's purely proof of work, decentralized, it's voted by the community. The whole community has a say in what goes on with the project. So let's get into certain things that came up in the past that Shai has discussed and actually debunked some claims and whatnot. So Justin Bonds, he's an individual that I do like his stance in crypto. He does a lot of critiques on different cryptocurrencies. He says here, too many people are hyper focused on their one favorite cryptocurrency. It is their community, their identity, and their future wealth all wrapped into one. That is not a healthy way to live and certainly not a smart way to invest. Take a step back, gain perspective, and embrace pluralism. And then this guy says, if you know Cas is truly solving the trilemma, which no project was able to, there's no way back. And then he says, I would argue that several cryptocurrencies are truly solving the blockchain scaling trilemma. And the thing is, in the process of solving it and actually having it solved, they're two complete different things. And so claiming that your favorite cryptocurrency is the only one is part of the problem I was highlighting. In Cas' case, DAGs do come with certain trade-offs, and it is not even the only DAG. And again, he's just misinformed. Kaspa is not just a DAG, it's a block DAG, and it's a proof of work. And he doesn't realize that Kaspa has solved the trilemma already. And Shai even says this here. He says a DAG is just a data structure. The question is not whether you use DAG, but what you do with it. Kaspa is the only trilemma solving tech. That's not a matter of opinion, just a simple mathematical fact. If you want to know more, I recommend starting here. And he gives them a video to the Ghost DAG 101. So this guy, Ghostban, comes up a lot in trying to defend Nano. And he says, you're only proving Justin's point. Nano had already solved the trilemma too, which again, misinformed. It's solved, it's the trilemma in the fact that, yeah, right now, if you buy it, you can spend it and use it super fast or whatever, and it's solving the trilemma. But how does it do this? What is the tech behind it to do this? And Shai explains, it does not. Interesting tech, but it can't scale down confirmation times while retaining Nakamoto consensus security. See his discussion here. And if you go into the discussion, it's a huge discussion with two other people who are pretty informed about the technologies behind Nano and behind Bitcoin and all that kind of stuff. And the whole conversation is very long. Shai was just trying to make the point that if Nano starts to receive adoption, confirmation times would decrease, and that means scalability decreases. So it hasn't solved the scalability issue because it decreases drastically, but also Nano hasn't even solved and the centralization issue that it has, because it's the way it confirms transaction is through some kind of like voting mechanism, and that we're going to discuss a little bit later here. At the end though, Shai's point is true. This guy even confirms that he's right. He says, I don't know the origin of this discussion, but I also have no beef with Cas. Haven't researched it. You are completely correct that Nano makes no confirmation time guarantees. Kaspa makes a confirmation time guarantees. We're guaranteeing that confirmation times will be always 10 seconds, and they're sometimes even faster, depending on the network. But in the future, Kaspa is scaling itself to keep these confirmation times no matter what, and even increasing them to lightning speeds, something similar to like the Lightning Network, but on the base layer, not on a layer 2 solution. So this is why Kaspa's tech is so innovative and is something not to be ignored in the space, because it pretty much makes everything else useless because this new tech exists. Going into another discussion here, Ghostban says, keep an eye on Kaspa. It's fast, globally secure, securely irreversible. Cas confirmations are only, and then he says all this here. And he continues going on saying that there's $723 million mistakenly sitting in the doomed within 5 years Kaspa, which should be an instantly secure, more efficient, easier to use, zero fees, zero inflation Nano. Let's fix that mistake. And if you keep going here, this person says it's also proof of work and the team operates looks unsustainable to me. Also, the whole community run aspect is a major red flag to me. And the fact that they're thinking that proof of work and community run is a red flag really shows that they don't understand like the whole entire point of cryptocurrency, and the fact that it's supposed to be decentralized and it's supposed to be, in my opinion, I think proof of work is the only way to keep something actually decentralized and secure. And they don't realize that like Bitcoin is still #1 for a reason, and it's because of that proof of work tech that was started. And now we have Kaspa, which takes that same type of principles, those same types of Nakamoto consensus, but just improves it. And now we have Kaspa, which is now going to be a really, really good competitor in the space of proof of works. All right, and then this is Shai's response to what he said here. It says, conflating Nakamoto consensus with objective finality is stupid. According to this critique, Bitcoin and pretty much any other non-proved proof of work never confirms transactions. He's basically saying XNO is more secure than Bitcoin because you can technically revert a 10 years old transaction, completely ignoring the fact that it will take huge amount of resources, not a sensible argument. See attached post. And yeah, the user is trying to say that with proof of works, you could technically revert a transaction in the past, but that it doesn't, like, he's not accounting for the fact that to do such a thing, you need to have a lot more hash power, and that requires a lot of money that you have to put up front to actually do something like that on the network. So it's not just something that can, like, you can just easily just do it, because if it was, they would have done it on Bitcoin years ago, and Bitcoin's been around for 14 years. That has not happened. Continuing on here, He says the fact remains that in CAS and any other proof of work, if 90% of the miners want to censor your transaction, you have to wait 10 times longer before it is included. So in CAS, 10 blocks per second when the network is not congested, you wait 1 second instead of 0.1 seconds for inclusion. Whereas in XNO, if 34% of the voters, which currently amounts to Binance and Kraken, and this is because if you look at the addresses for Nano here, literally the top addresses are mainly just exchanges, which since Nano right now is very, very small, only about a $98 million market cap, that means that like these people would basically be able to be validators. And I know it does take like a vote for XNO, who they choose to represent, but I haven't really gone too deep into that. But either way, Nano is very, very small right now, so it's a lot more less secure because of how small it is with market cap right now. But continuing on here, he says if 34% of the voters, which currently amounts to Binance and Kraken, decide to censor your transaction, they could do it indefinitely. That really all there is to it. The security of XNO currently relies on altruism. If they ever reach high adoption with Nakamoto coefficient of say 100, the confirmation speed will deteriorate accordingly. So yeah, you know, the security of XNO just relies that the people who are securing it just will not become malicious at all. Like, because it's about like 60, it could be like 60 or 100 people that are validators, and they are the people who confirm and trust the transactions or whatever. So you're relying like on a person pretty much with XNO to secure the network, instead of like a mining rig that's not really the person. If a person buys a miner, they bought it because they want to mine it, so that means they're going to secure the network. They really can't do anything unless they had bought a ton of miners, which is not possible because it costs so much money, and it wouldn't make sense financially to do such an attack on things like Bitcoin or things like Kaspa. And as far as I can tell, it does not provide any solution whatsoever beside hoping that the voting power will somehow spread evenly among many holders in the future, and that more than 64% of them will be. I don't think this is reasonable, and it's not. I mean, like it's literally a hope in that the validators are decentralized, and that's not really a good hope. The decentralization aspect with a proof of work is the actual mining rigs, and the actual mining rigs, where they're located, matters. And since you can literally buy miners for CAS anywhere across the world, that means mining rigs are located everywhere across the world. And this is the case for Bitcoin, which is why it makes it so decentralized, because it's not mining pools. Mining pools is not the centralization issue. It would be only the actual miners, the ASIC miners, and where they're located. Yes, if one person had all the mining ASICs located in only America and it was just some company, then yeah, that would be a problem. But currently there's mining like everywhere across the world for Bitcoin, and it's the same case for Kaspa. So right now it would cost a ton of money to even try to break the security of Kaspa at the moment. And Kaspa is currently able to withstand a 51% attack. His response to this is, no, I'm not. Bitcoin is protected by 444 e-hashes, making it probabilistically secure in 30 minutes, ignoring its mining pool centralization here. And this is again not true. There's no such thing as mining pool centralization with Bitcoin at the moment. It's the only centralization that could be an issue is where the miners are located. But people who mine, they point the miners to a pool. Just because a ton of miners are pointing it to a certain pool doesn't mean that that's centralization with that pool, because if that pool becomes malicious, the miners could just change who they mine to. Like it's that simple. And ASIC miners across the whole world are pretty evident for Bitcoin. So he also, Shai responds, any trolling multimillionaire can buy 34% of XNO supply and stall Nano for all eternity without spending an additional dime. 51%ing CAS requires obtaining a huge amount of design ASICs that can be made obsolete with a single hard fork, and constantly spending more money to maintain your edge. Besides, comparing hash rate to hash rate, disregarding the fact that different hashes have different costs, just shows how much of an amateur you are. And the problem is, it's not like you can get these mining rigs just by going up to a place and grabbing them off a shelf. You have to put up a lot of money. Like right now, like the highest miner for Kaspa costs like $50,000. That means you need to put up a ton of money to be able to attack the network right now. And that's hoping that the company would actually give you the ASICs in a reasonable time before the hash rate keeps increasing and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, these ASIC miners are not just like easily obtained, and they do cost a ton of money. The conversation continues to get really deep about the security of Nano and whatnot, but I think what really matters and stands out the most is the fact that later, Shai realizes that the founder actually decided to block him. And then not only that, confirmation times get worse if adoption comes to Nano. That right there already is pretty much the end of discussion. And he proved that in the very beginning, that confirmation times will get worse if the adoption continues. So that's a very huge problem. But also, a big thing about Nano is it, from the get-go, from the launch, it always was going to have an issue with having spam attacks. And the fact is, it received a spam attack literally in 2021, not too long ago, which I know they fixed it now, but regardless, they launched a project that has a clear security issue that proof of work doesn't have to go through. This attack happened, and even the articles were stating that the coin's design guarantees very low transaction fees, which is cool, but as evidenced by this attack, this comes at a cost of decentralization and Sybil resistance. So at the end of the day, you know, it just doesn't matter. Nano cannot scale. So it has not solved the trilemma, and it's also pretty much not decentralized. And in the article that was written by the Binance research lead, he says, but what about other DAGs? Why focus on block DAG innovations? Many DAGs such as IOTA, Byteball, and Nano are blockless DAGs. Blockless is a fancy term for blocks with one transaction. Blocks with one transaction are not scalable. It is a feature which disables economies of scale, as users can no longer delegate their transactions to service providers to aggregate transactions. DAGs of this nature also rely on centralized authorities such as coordinators double checking all transactions and thus create a single point of failure. So this is a problem when it comes to Nano. And not only that, proof of work always makes the much more harder sounder money because its value is anchored to markets beyond itself and objective physical grounding such as electricity, computing hardware, and warehouses situated across the globe. Proof of works make the digital currency a lot more sound than currencies that rely on just some couple of validators or proof of stake. So this is why I would rather be in a digital currency that is a proof of work, because I do believe proof of work is probably the best way to keep a currency decentralized and keep it sound, secure. And now with Kaspa, we can even have it more scalable. The way Shai sums this all up basically is the quick confirmation currently witnessed is due to the fact that the top 6 voters hold enough voting power to confirm a quorum. In summary, there are 2 entities who can collude to indefinitely stall Nano transactions, and there are 6 entities who can collude to freely censor Nano transactions. That is, the network is fast because it is centralized. This is not a very meaningful feat. If we ever reach the utopic state they describe where the Nakamoto coefficient is, say, 100, the confirmation times will slow down appropriately. Beyond that, and despite Nano being online for at least 6 years, the ORV consensus protocol was never properly analyzed and was never simulated in an adversarial setting, so there's no reason to assume there aren't another attack vectors besides the obvious liveness attack I mentioned. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video of what I got when I was looking a little bit into Nano and Shai's responses. I hope you guys learned something from that. And with all that being said, don't be average, be different.